Welcome back, brothers and sisters of Christ. My name is Brianna and I'm back with another video. And for today's video is rejection is God's protection. You know, most times we always talk about what God did for us or the things that he saved us from that we, could physically see or physically went through. But what about the things that he didn't do? And what about the things that we couldn't physically see that he even saved us from? Although we don't know those things are what exactly those things are, but I'm sure we all had a time like we knew or felt like we were in danger, but we made it out. Or we knew or felt like something was wrong, something was off, but we made it out. Or there was also times where we thought that we wanted something, but the Lord was, it wasn't working out and we didn't understand why. That's because God's rejection is protection. Those things that God didn't do or didn't allow us to do saved us, actually. There was I'm sure we all had a time where we thought we really wanted something. The Lord didn't give it to us and we were upset about it. At that time, we were upset. But when you look back on a lot of situations and you realize it was a blessing that you didn't get what you wanted, what you were asking for, that things didn't go your way. And the things that the Lord doesn't do for us can be blessings as well. They're blessings in disguise that we don't find out until later that it's a blessing. It doesn't look like one initially, but afterwards we're like, that was a blessing, Lord. Thank you so much for not allowing that to happen. I don't know what I was thinking. Just like our parents wouldn't let us do certain stuff or go certain places. They would tell us no about certain things as a kid. And, we would get upset and we didn't understand why it was happening. At that time, it just seemed like you're trying to rain on my parade. You don't want me to have no fun. But our parents knew what these things could potentially lead to. They're thinking far ahead. You know what I'm saying? And as we got older and we look back on a lot of these things, we're thankful and we're grateful that they told us no. They didn't let us go there or do that, because we realized that they could have saved us for potential harm and danger. They were protecting us, for our own good. It took for us to grow up and mature to realize that, with our parents, it took for some of us to become parents to realize. And even in our spiritual journey, it takes for you to grow spiritually, to be spiritually mature, to realize this with God as well. Like, okay, before I came to Christ, I ain't know no better. That's why I wanted this to happen. But now that I've matured in Christ, I understand now, Lord, why you didn't want that for me. When you look at God's no's in a negative way, then you haven't fully been spiritually mature. Because God just don't be telling us no to be like, just to punish us. Like, no. You know what I mean? Like, just to be spiteful. That's not God. When he tells us no, it's because, it's either not our time yet. He got something bigger or greater, and it may not be for you. And when it's not for you, it's still ultimately something bigger and greater. Sometimes we be thinking too small. He like, no, I got something greater for you. So we have to look at God's no's as a blessing, because that's exactly what it is. And not in a negative way, but in a positive way. When God tells you no, just be like, okay, God, you said no, so trust and believe. I trust and believe that you have something better. This is not for me. I'm not going to take it personal. I'm not going to throw a tantrum or a fit. And, back to the things that we couldn't see or didn't know about that he saved us from, those conversations and plots that we didn't hear that he saved us from, that potential relationship, that potential marriage, job, friendship that he saved us from, that event that he stopped you from going to that end up getting shot up. So it may not always look like it, but God's no is often a blessing in disguise that we don't understand or see right away. We need to be thankful for what didn't happen, because that is a blessing as well. We need to be thankful when God tells us no, because that is a blessing as well. We need to be thankful for the things that we could not see take place, in the spiritual realm, the things that we wasn't there to witness, but the Lord did. That's why he said, no, you don't need to be friends with her no more. That's why he said, no, you don't need to marry that man. That's why he said, no, you don't need that job. I'm seeing what's going on. That's not for you. I got something better. That's why he said, no, you don't need to go to that event. This is going to happen. Our mind is always stuck on fun, but the Lord thinks about the future. The Lord thinks about our spirit, you know, our well-being, our safety. We just be thinking about fun, fun, fun. We just be thinking with our flesh. But I like him. I love him. But is he good for you? You know, I really want this job because it makes a lot of money. Will they treat you as a right employee? You might get into the job and be stressed out. You know, the Lord knows what's best. So be thankful for when the Lord tells you no. Be thankful for when things didn't go your way. Be thankful, you know, for everything. Really. But if this word is not for you, it's for somebody else. Remember, I'm telling y'all this because I love y'all. God bless.